We're going to move ahead in the agenda to the Lived Experiences panel, and I'd like to invite Megan Gifford and Darnell Wilson to join me on the stage. Megan's also doing double duty today as part of our media team, live streaming the event. You get to live stream yourself. This is fun. Let me introduce you to these fine people. Megan Gifford is the mother of 3 children, including 1 child on the autism spectrum and 1 child living with cystic fibrosis. In addition to having to navigate medical and mental health treatment providers for her children's needs, she is a community advocate who volunteers her time to help others in the special needs community. Darnell Wilson is a 56-year-old African-American man who lives with major depression and congestive heart failure, as well as other medical needs. He has also experienced homelessness and unemployment in his life. Darnell is passionate about his involvement with the Seventh-day Adventist Church, committed to serving his church community and volunteering weekly at the men's shelter. I think we've got both of them here. And I don't know who's going first, but you're going to hear about
it. First, I'm just going to adjust this live stream to focus on myself. So, as Greg said, my name is Megan Gifford, and I have been taking photos at this event for a long time, maybe 5 or 6 years. So that's why some of you recognize me if you can't place the face. So this also means that for most of you who attend this event every year, I have pictures of you eating. So I want you to remember that when you're filling out your evaluations at the end, because I'll consider it as I'm posting your photos later in the day, whether you get your fun photo booth pictures taken or, you know, the one with your mouth full of bacon. So totally up to you.
Say what now?
All right, so I live in Hillsborough with my husband, and we have 3 kids. So our son James is 11, Ross is 21 and has high-functioning autism and ADHD, anxiety, and also struggles with depression. My daughter Madison is a 24-year-old ICU nurse with cystic fibrosis. You can see her wedding pictures are here. That's the whole family. So Madison's battled anxiety almost her entire life. As you can imagine, being born with a terminal illness is not super fun, and she has endured a lot in her short time on this earth. So, in addition to Madison, you know, she's in good company. My mother has multiple sclerosis, and she also battled depression when I was a child. That was pretty severe. My grandmother literally died of bipolar disorder. She had some delusions of grandeur that prevented her from seeking appropriate medical care for a condition that was easily treatable, and she died when she was 51. So then there's me. So I know that we make a lot of judgments just based on what we see or the way that people carry themselves. So allow me to just totally blow that out of the water for you right now. I might look like I'm put together. I hope I look like I'm put together. Everything I'm wearing except for my earrings came from Goodwill. I had 3 hours of sleep last night. And I've also had cancer twice. And my thyroid cancer resulted in a combo of medications that has induced pretty severe anxiety and even panic attacks, doing things that I used to really enjoy and not having any problem with. So I could easily talk to you about integrated care all day as it relates to members of my immediate family. But today I want to talk to you a little bit about my daughter, because I have a story that I think is pretty illustrative of some of the challenges that we face as mental health advocates. So this was back in December of 2014. She was a sophomore in college, and she went for a tune-up sinus surgery during winter break for her cystic fibrosis. So I waited longer than usual in the waiting room that day, and a full hour after she was out of surgery, there was an irritated nurse who came and got me to take me back. So we're walking down this long hallway, and she just turns and says to me, "Someone is not happy. We're hoping you can calm her down." So my heart just sank because I realized that the screaming sounds that were whispered at the start of this walk would just get louder until I met the eyes of my daughter. There is nothing really that can prepare you to see your child in complete agony. She was sobbing, she was whimpering like an injured puppy, and every 30 seconds or so, she would just let out a blood-curdling scream. So I had a lot of emotions at that point in time that were not G-rated, but I knew I had to keep it together. And so I just turned and said, "I'm not sure what you expect me to do, She's clearly in extreme pain, and what have you given her? They said, well, we're giving her a prescription for Vicodin to take home because, we can't give her IV pain meds because she's going home with you tonight. It was a Friday night, like 6 o'clock. She said, but, we're going to ask them to order some Klonopin because she's having a lot of anxiety. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks, because there it was. And I don't know why I was surprised, because I already knew a lot of people are really reluctant to accept a mental health diagnosis or even share that mental health diagnosis with a primary care doctor because it means you're inevitably treated differently. They only have 20 minutes, 15 minutes with a patient, and they're expected to solve really complex problems sometimes. And when the symptoms have multiple differential diagnoses and the patient has a history of mental illness that overlaps with some of those symptoms, it's easy to write it off to a mental health disorder when preliminary tests aren't conclusive. In my daughter's case, they assumed that because she was taking an anti-anxiety medicine, that her pain was a result of that anxiety. And I had to explain to them that she wouldn't even take Advil for migraines because the rebound headaches were so bad. I also had to explain that because of cystic fibrosis, that anything they gave her orally, she wasn't going to metabolize the same way that a normal person would. So, as it turned out, that day they had drilled away quite a bit of the bone in her skull to clean her sinuses out. And coming out of anesthesia, she'd been doing nothing for the pain. So by this time, everybody in the PACU was gone, except for us, a nurse, and a respiratory therapist. And it was 23 minutes from my arrival in the room, or about an hour and a half after her surgery, that she was finally given pain medicine. And I know that because I was recording the whole thing. So this, unfortunately, is not an isolated incident, and it's not specific to my daughter. I experienced something really similar as an inpatient for 3 days, which led to PSD. I would just cry until I passed out. And my husband, who is a healthcare provider, just laid down and cried beside me. At the age of 37, I was given Prozac for extreme fatigue and muscle pain. And come to find out, I actually had mono. I had to beg for that test because my son got diagnosed with it, and I said, hey, my 14-year-old has mono, I think that might be it. And he said, you're 37 years old, ma'am, but with all due respect, there's no way you haven't had it. And I thought I had had it in high school anyway, but so I said, just humor me. Just humor me and do the test and let's rule it out because I just don't feel like anything's helping. And so he did the test and he came back in. He's like, yeah, you have mono. And that was, confirmed by the viral capsid antigen and not just the mono spot for the physicians in the room. So he said, I don't know what you need me for. And I said, I just need you to stand there and look pretty. So, he's very handsome, my doctor, just so you know. I'll give you his name later. Anyway. And he's recently single, ladies. So, 6 months ago, I had a specialist tell me to accept my seriously impaired cognitive function, weight gain, extreme fatigue, and exercise intolerance as my new normal. So I persisted, and another doctor who was just throwing things at the wall to see what would stick, so to speak, found out that my growth hormone levels were lower than the mean for an 80-year-old woman. What are the symptoms of that disorder? Impaired cognitive function, weight gain, fatigue, and exercise intolerance. So I am not a person who is shamed by the stigma of mental illness. I just believe in being yourself and letting that fly. And if you stop at the photo booth, you're going to see that I have no shame at all because I brought all that stuff from my house. But every time I see a new doctor, I'm noted as being anxious. Even after producing a chart that would be impressive for an 80-year-old. Of course I'm anxious. I know there's a good chance they're not going to believe anything that I'm saying because my chart says I'm anxious. What I'm really anxious for is the day when I don't have to worry about my mental health diagnosis impacting the care that I receive for the rest of my body. And I really hope that my daughter, thank you. I really, really hope that my daughter lives to see that day as well. So,
Good morning, everybody. My name is Darnell Wilson. Oh, that's my beautiful mother up there. I give honor to my mother. She's been gone for 36 years. And I look at that picture and kind of smile at it. But before I get to talking, let me thank you, my support group. That's my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. My church, the Raleigh Seventh-day Adventist Church, Easter Seals, and Max. Max, I mentioned your name. Can you take me home, Max? I want to walk. But okay, since I got that out the way, I'm going to talk about the monkey that's on my back. We're scared to talk about it. That's depression. It's a silent, miserable, rotten thing that just follows you around. And I'm kind of a blunt person when it comes to talking about depression. It kind of sucks. Don't nobody want to talk about it. It brings your body down, brings your health down, it brings you down personally. And it has done its damage to me. It's brought my health down. I have congestive heart failure. I suffer with diabetes. I suffer with gout. My mobility is shot. I have given up. Sometimes I've given up on myself. God has been good to me. I didn't need to take any medications. I thank God I had a good therapist, and I learned how to pray. That got me through it. The medications don't hit me too well. And let me talk about the mental health system. Going back and forth to the doctor is one thing, but if you got a doctor that doesn't have compassion, the word compassion, I've been in and out of doctor's offices just because I didn't have a copay. I went the other day, my doctor sent me the other day to get an MRI. Maybe my mathematics is wrong. I had $3.55. I talked to the receptionist, mentioned compassion. I said, let me see, Mr. Wilson. That's all I have. She said, well, let me go back in the back and talk to my manager. The manager came out and said to me, we cannot see you, Mr. Wilson. Go out in the lobby and see if you can get 45 cents. That's kind of funny, isn't it, you know? Maybe my mathematics is wrong, you know. You're going to throw me out the door and have MRI is almost $8,000. You know what I mean? Am I correct? You know what I mean? I'm just wondering in my mind, you know, you're going to give up $8,000 for 45 cents. Maybe I didn't go to school long enough. I should have stayed in college, or I should have been in math. Maybe I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. You know, so I'm sorry. Forgive me, Mother. You know, I should have. So my education should help me now. But that bothers me. And the word compassion comes into that quite a bit. Now, let me talk about the fellows that are. Let me talk about the homeless that are in the street. You take this kind of harsh and cold. Ever since they shut Dorothea Dix down, they have kicked these brothers hard. They have stepped on them. They have embarrassed them. They have made them feel like second-class citizens in the street. And frankly, you talk about straightening out the homelessness in Raleigh, all they've done is taped on Moore Square and took all the seats out of Moore Square. They don't want them down there. And these guys cannot see a doctor. These guys they got worse than what I got. Bipolar problem, schizophrenia. If these guys can't pay their copay, they get kicked to the curb. And these brothers are out here with these kind of conditions, they are dangerous in the street. We need to have compassion. Compassion goes from the receptionist to the desk, to the manager in the back, to the doctor in the front, to the emergency room doctors. If you ain't got compassion, you need to find another job. Maybe you need to be a gardener. I know they little lights on, but I ain't finished with it, bro. I know your little lights on, but let me finish what I'm saying. Give me another minute, you know. Because somebody else said they had 5 more minutes. Just give me just a little bit longer to say what I got to say. Now, I have been kicked to the curb when it comes to mental health. Before I had a good doctor with compassion, before I had a good therapist that had compassion, I've been in and out the emergency room. I had been misdiagnosed. I remember I went to the emergency room one time. I had depression. They said I whiplash in my neck, but I had a broke disc. They had to go in my neck and operate on me for 6 hours. You go from one, you go to the one emergency room, you go to another. They look at you and say, "Oh, you're back? What can we do for you?" They really make you feel kind of rotten. And it ain't right. But all I'm saying is this: if you're a doctor, a receptionist, a nurse, the main thing you need to have in this business is compassion. If you ain't got it, if you don't have it, find yourself another job. Find yourself something else to do. All you're doing is bringing down, you're bringing the ones down that need help. So I'm gonna end this by saying, there's so many things I want to jump on, but I ain't got but a few minutes. But I wrote a lot of stuff down on a piece of paper, but I kind of threw it to the side. Max is telling me what to say, how much I appreciate it, but I just want to get some things off my chest. If you haven't lived it, if you haven't had the problems, pray for those, help those that do. Help those that do. I can't tell you no more and no less, but if you got a job in the mental health system, please